Tonight is the author of Victory at Yorktown. He is live tonight in Richmond, Virginia, as part of his American Legacy Tour. Former presidential candidate, former Speaker of the House, Newt Gingrich. Mr. Speaker, welcome back.
It's good to be with you.
All right, so there's my proposal.
Interesting times.
What'd you say?
I said they're interesting times.
You say that with a smile on your face. There are a lot of our friends that are not happy about this.
Look, one of the reasons I write historical fiction is to remind people that sometimes freedom's difficult. Crossing the Delaware on Christmas night in a snowstorm was very difficult. Marching 9 miles with a third of the army wearing burlap bags because they had no boots, leaving a trail of blood, that's difficult. Now, where are we today? You have a president who believes that he can bully and outmaneuver and out-propagandize the Republicans. He clearly believes the Republicans will cave, and he is treating them with a level of disdain and arrogance that is, I think, breathtaking. The Republicans need to take a big step back, rethink the role of the legislative branch, and understand that they have gone down a trail that has no positive outcome. A legislative branch does 5 things. It appropriates, it legislates, it has oversight, it communicates, and it negotiates. They have been overwhelmingly fixated on negotiate, but their real power is appropriate, legislate, oversight, and communicate. And I would urge the House and Senate Republicans to take a deep breath, pull all the way back, say, when you have a serious proposal, send it up. We're not going to meet with Geithner. We're not going to meet with anybody. We'll look at a proposal. We both have fax machines. We both have email. We have lots of ways of delivering things. And then I would focus on, one, how are they going to control appropriations? Obama can't spend a penny if the Congress doesn't give it to him. The House Republicans don't have to give the Senate Democrats a penny. 2, what do they need oversight on? Because if every committee and subcommittee was looking at how bad this administration is wasting our money, the president wouldn't have the gall to ask for more stimulus money. 3, what legislation do they want to move? And I don't think they should move big bills. They should move lots and lots of small bills. Make the Democrats block over and over in the Senate. Set a stage for an obstructionist Democrat re-election effort in 2014. And then, frankly, they need to get their act together on communication. It is pathetic how badly Republicans do, whether it's the presidential campaign or it's trying to govern, when they are competing with the news media and Obama, which is essentially the same thing. They have got to really rethink their entire communication strategy.
Well, I got to tell you, I think I like your proposal better than mine, especially what you said about well, because I said one piece of legislation, but you're right, I'm wrong. I think a series of, peace.
Thank you very much. I'm very grateful. That's nice.
No, I'm listening very closely to what you're saying, because I think that is a far more effective way, strategy and tactic than what I proposed, which is one piece and say, all right, well, now deal with that. I think to show what the very things the Democrats are against is a good idea. I have one question. Howard Dean and some of the people on the hard left, they've actually come out and said that this is a good thing. Because the thinking is they get sequestration, they get to gut the military, they get to raise everybody's taxes, but they don't get the blame for it, and they get to blame Republicans. Do you think this is maybe the strategy of the president, considering how awful and insulting that plan was that he offered?
I think it could be his tactic, his goal. But look, I think Republicans ought to eliminate the term fiscal cliff. I just wrote my newsletter that people can get at GingrichProductions.com, and the entire newsletter is designed to say, there is no fiscal cliff. This is a fantasy. What you have today is the Washington elite chanting fiscal cliff, fiscal cliff, fiscal cliff, hoping to convince Republicans to do something really stupid, because the alternative would be going off the fiscal cliff. The fiscal cliff is an invention of people, the very people who are trying to bully us right now. All you have to say is, let's break it down into 12 or 15 foothills, no cliffs. Now let's one by one solve each of the smaller problems until we get to some solutions. You don't have to panic over this, but I want to confess something here, Sean. What I outlined for you, I actually copied from Tip O'Neill. When O'Neill was faced with Ronald Reagan in 1981, he knew that he couldn't beat him in head-to-head negotiating, but he thought he could preserve the Democratic Party and preserve the welfare state in a long battle of attrition. And so O'Neill, who had a Republican Senate, a Republican president, used the power of the House over and over again to slow down the momentum. I think Republicans have got to understand, they're not going to get any good deal from Barack Obama. He has contempt for them. He shows that contempt on a regular basis. He's a hardline left-winger. And so they've got to think through, the American people have chosen him. He's going to be our president for 4 years. What does an effective conservative House do in a period where it is having to maneuver against both liberal Democrats in the Senate and a very, very liberal president? And frankly, it may surprise you, but Tip O'Neill is a pretty good person to study to see how he did it in the 1980s.
I think I agree with you. How would you deal with the communication problem that you mentioned? Because I agree with you. It's been atrocious.
The first thing I do is I see how many of the House and Senate Republicans are prepared to sign up for serious communications. And I'd actually build a methodical plan. When we took on reforming Medicare in 1996, which was a huge challenge, with a Democrat in the White House, we trained every member of the House caucus to be able to go out and to talk about Medicare in an intelligent, effective way. We knew what we were trying to say, and I would tell you, the Congressional Campaign Committee's campaign this last year on the Medi-Scare project, they beat the Democrats in virtually every district where that became an issue. So I would start with the National Republican Congressional Campaign approach, but then I would grow it dramatically into a much more comprehensive effort to communicate to every single American of every background.
All right, Mr. Speaker, I'm feeling better about what the Republicans can do. You've done a great job, and I tip my hat, but stay right there. We're going to come back more with Speaker Gingrich. And welcome back to Hannity now. Emotions were running high last night in Staten Island, New York, as over 1,000 victims of Hurricane Sandy, many who have no place to call home, confronted federal and local officials about the lack of help. Watch this.
We go from one to another. We go from FEMA to our homeowners. My homeowner's insurance offered me $150. What can I do with that? I need to rebuild. Sir, I need your attention, please.
When you go home and get to celebrate in a nice warm house, I have no electric, I have no heat, I don't even have sewage in the house. But then the city comes and they did an inspection, it's okay to live in. Yeah, right. A joke. And you wonder why people are mad? We are the people, we're the middle class. And we're getting the finger. You were there when I met Obama, and I told President Obama, you told us you were going to cut the red tape and Middlefield. And I told him, the middle class is getting the royal finger. And what did he say? FEMA works for me. FEMA ain't doing nothing still. They keep going around in a circle. And they go, denied, denied.
Very heartbreaking. And while President Obama, Mayor Bloomberg, and Governor Cuomo of New York run around patting each other on the back for a job well done, well, these people are suffering, and no one from the federal, the state, or local government seems to care. Now, President Obama, he sure did show a lot of concern for the victims before Election Day. Where is the concern from the administration now? We continue with Speaker of the House, Newt Gingrich. You know, I listen to this and I see this. Some people still don't have power. A lot of people have lost their home. They've lost everything. Oh, so many people have been conditioned, Mr. Speaker, to put their faith, their hope, their trust in government. Can we learn anything from here?
Well, you can learn two things. First of all, if the federal government can't do any better than this with Sandy, what's it going to do with Obamacare? How comfortable are you that the same bureaucracy that can't deliver help in Staten Island is now going to supervise your heart operation or your cancer treatment? But second, this is an example of what I talked about in the last segment. The House Republicans should be holding hearings. They should go back and look at Katrina, the lessons that were not learned, the reforms that were not made, the things that were not done. Sandy is not dramatically better than Katrina in terms of the performance of the federal government. When we developed the Department of Homeland Security, the original idea was that you could have up to 3 nuclear events on the same day in 3 different cities, and you'd better have an ability to mobilize to be able to help people immediately. Now you look at this event, you look at how badly it's done. This is a perfect example of why the House Republicans should be adopting an oversight strategy and a legislative strategy to find out real solutions and to say, what should we be doing to fix a government that clearly doesn't work?
Well, as you pointed out in the last segment, this is their role, and you explained it in great detail. One of the most arrogant things, you talked about the president bullying, but when he actually went out there and he's proposing that the Congress give up their constitutional authority and hand him a blank check, and we're about to hit a debt ceiling limit again, and he gets to raise it at will, what is your reaction to that?
Well, I want to say something that will startle the Washington establishment. The number one power of the House is to originate spending and taxing. If the House Republicans decide not, if the House, and look, I'm the guy who helped lead closing the federal government twice in order to get Bill Clinton's attention, because we weren't getting serious negotiations. And somehow, after we proved how serious we were, they turned around and we negotiated. We ended up passing welfare reform. We ended up passing 4 consecutive balanced budgets. We were able to work together. Why? Because we had mutual respect. It's very clear President Obama has no respect for the congressional Republicans, and people shouldn't, it's not just a laughing matter. Here's a guy with 4 more years as president, and he's starting his second term with total contempt for the people who are in charge of the U.S. House. I think they should indicate quite clearly, not only are they not going to give in on the debt ceiling, but he may have a really hard time getting any money for anything out of the Congress next year, at which point he's got a big problem running the government.
You see, there's one big fight for one power grab after another. Harry Reid is proposing ending the filibuster so they can take control there, and he's proposing that he gets a blank check and gets to raise the debt ceiling at will. So obviously there's a lack of respect there. You know, ironically, I think the president who won't call, let's say, Major Hassan and Fort Hood terror, or admit Benghazi was terror, or can't say the war on terror, you know, he certainly shows a lot of toughness and lack of respect for the Republicans. Wish he showed that on foreign policy.
Well, look, I think one of the things we've learned out of the last 4 years is that he is a Chicago machine politician who happens to have radical values. He is seeking to run the United States the same way the Chicago machine would run Chicago. And I think the challenge for House Republicans is to design a strategy from the base of strength they have, and to be able to say, we are not going to go along with this president taking over the whole country in a centralized model where he'll have no accountability. You know, if they can borrow endless money, the Geithner proposal, they'll have no accountability to anybody.
All right, Mr. Speaker, thanks so much for being with us. Appreciate it, and good luck on your book tour. It's a great new book.